Welcome to Imperfectly Human, the podcast where we get real about mental health, messy growth, and being human one day at a time. I'm your host, Rachel, and together we're navigating life's chaos with honesty, compassion, and a little humor. Let's get into it. Hello, Imperfectly Human friends. I am your host, Rachel, but today I'm also your guest because when life gives you lemon, you make lemonade out of that. So today we're actually going to talk about my podcast and the shift that is happening within my podcast. So first, I want to thank you if you've been following me on my YouTube channel. Thank you. So let's talk about why I'm making this shift. I've loved every conversation I've had on this podcast, and those conversations aren't going away. But over the last year, I've become really clear on who I feel called to serve. And the people I keep finding myself working with, talking to, and thinking about are athletes. And I'm not just talking about athletes while they're competing. I'm talking about athletes who are actually navigating what is coming next. And what I keep seeing is that we spend years teaching athletes how to perform, how to compete, push through, and win. But very few people teach athletes how to leave a sport. And whether it's through retirement, by choice, injury, graduation, being cut, or just simply aging out, it can actually feel like losing a piece of yourself. And on the outside, people might say, hey, congratulations, what's next? While internally you're wondering, who the hell am I now? And so as a therapist and an athlete identity coach, I've spent years helping people navigate difficult transitions. And as a parent of a former athlete, I've also watched firsthand how challenging these transitions can be. I have seen the identity struggles, the loss of structure, the uncertainty, and the pressure of immediately having to figure out what's happening in your life. And here's the thing, I realize this is where I can make my biggest impact. And the reason why I'm sharing about this, because personally, one thing I've talked about is I'm going to share a little bit more of my story. So let's talk about why I know so much about injury. Although I was never a professional athlete, I've done a full Ironman, 3 half Ironman, 16 full marathons, 30 or 40 plus half marathons. And almost 5 years ago, I got injured while I was training for a half Ironman. And I don't need to go into the whole injury part of it, but what I found after was very enlightening because I went to one of the darkest places of my life. I went to a place where I wanted to not be present. I would look at cars when they would drive by and wonder if they would be fast enough to take me out if I stepped in front of it, because I was in so much pain 24/7 for probably 6 or 7 months. And I couldn't exercise. I could barely even walk. I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't get on my bike. I couldn't run. I could not do anything that I knew how to take care of myself, which is I would exercise. That is my therapy. And so during that time, I realized that there are a lot of athletes out there that don't know how to deal with life after sports. And it's been 5 years, and I'm now just at a place where I can show up. I've changed my not my desires, but I've changed my activities. So I have not been back on the bike. I've gone on the Peloton. I have decreased greatly the amount of miles I'm running. If I run 3 miles in a month, that is a lot. I've started weight training. I've gone to the gym. I've walked on the treadmill pretty quickly. I do the elliptical. I do the stair climber. But I also started to do more of things that are not exercise related, like red light therapy, sauna, cold plunges, because that is so important. And many athletes don't get taught that. And the problem that nobody talks about is what happens after. Most athletes are prepared for game day, but they're not prepared for the day after the game. And nobody talks enough about what happens when the thing that you've built your life around is actually no longer there. Your discipline is still there. Your competitive drive still is there. But guess what? The scoreboard is gone. And that's where many athletes get stuck. And so what this podcast is going to become is you're still going to hear incredible stories. You're going to hear from current athletes, former athletes, coaches, sports psychologists, and experts. And you're probably even going to hear from other professionals that may not play sports, but they work with athletes and guide them in a lot of different areas. Financial coaches, right? You talk about chiropractors, people who help them deal with their finances after they left the sports. Many people don't know how to deal with managing their own money. We're going to talk about identity. We're going to talk about confidence, purpose, mental health, recovery, relationships, fear, pressure, and reinvention. And we're going to have those honest conversations about what happens when life doesn't go according to plan. And so the message that I would love athletes to hear from me is that your value was never limited to your sport. And you are actually so much more than your stats, your position, your scholarship, your contract, your achievements, the money you make. Because the skills that you made successful in sport can actually help you build an incredible life after sport. The goal isn't actually to lose your edge. It's to learn how to use that edge just in a new chapter. And so Imperfectly Human has always been about real people navigating real challenges, being imperfectly human. Nobody's perfect at all. We are all messy. We are all going through something. And so this next chapter simply just brings more focus to a community that I care deeply about. And so if you're an athlete and you're navigating a transition, you're actually in the right place. And if you've ever had to reinvent yourself after losing something that once defined you, I think you're going to find yourself in these conversations too. So the end of your athletic career isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning of discovering who you are beyond that uniform. So if this resonates with you, you are going to want to be sure to follow me on my Instagram channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And it's at the Rachel Blogg. And so if you stay tuned and you know an athlete who might be struggling with a transition, please share this with them. Share my YouTube channel with them, because I am here for all of you who might not know who you are when your sport stops. I am your host, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me on Imperfectly Human, and be kind to yourself.